grab yourself a seat, and we'll get this celebration of life for Sonny Jim started, baby. Absolutely. Come on. So I'm going to wait for everybody to be seated, and then we'll get going. So please be seated. Thank you.
You're going to have your back. I've seen all of them.
I'm going to be your master of ceremonies because I'm Sonny Jim's other son. He was my dad. Anyway, I'd like to introduce to you one of his sons. Great guy. Maybe you don't know him, but you will know him after he gets through introducing his entire family. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the microphone and the celebration of life for Sonny Jim, David Price.
Hello, and thanks everyone for coming. My name is David Price. I'm from Kansas City. You might have heard tales of Kansas City. And I want to start introducing the family so you will recognize us as the pictures scroll through. Today, our sister Janice was not able to attend, but her daughter Erica Barnes is here, and her son James Broadus is here. I'm going to turn it over to my sister Lynn.
Hi everyone, welcome. A lot of you talked to me through Gmail, did the RSVP, and I want to say thank you so much because we were trying to figure out how to set up the room and how much food to order. And I had some really nice responses from people, very heartfelt, and I shared them with the rest of the family, and I wanted to just say thank you. Anyway, with me is my husband, Frank Wilson, and my daughter, Jessica. And I'm going to be turning it back over to David. Thank you again.
So we're trying to go chronologically. This is Janice, and it's Lynn, and then myself. So I'm David Price. This is my wife Leslie, my daughter Amanda, my daughter Erin, and her husband Ryan, and my daughter Ann. And I'll turn it over to my brother Jim.
Hello everyone, my name is Michael Price, welcome. I'd like to introduce my family, wife Becky, son Nicholas, son Evan, and our middle son was not able to be here today. He's got finals week back in South Carolina at the Naval Nuclear Power Training Command. Wish he could be here with us. And now I'd like to turn this over to Louie.
Okay. If I can get up.
I think this comes off, but
I'm Luli, and I'd like to welcome everybody from the bottom of my heart. I want to thank you all to be here. I want to thank our families, our dear friends and neighbors for being here. And I want to introduce Jim's extended family, my family. My oldest son, Alex, and Gallego, and his wife, Sarah, is a professor at Missoula, Montana University, and she was not able to attend, and their three children, Solveig, Ivan, and Ernesto, were not able to be here. Then my middle daughter, Christina, Dr. Christina Borsari, and her husband, Brad Borsari. And they have three children. The two oldest ones are away in college, so they were in able to attend, but my granddaughter is here, Paloma. And my youngest son, Dan Gallego, his wife, Randy, and my two precious little youngest granddaughters, August and Lola. Thank you again.
You were going to introduce. Sorry. I'd like
introduce somebody that probably everybody knows him here. He was the one that started this church many, many years ago. I've known him since then. Monsignor Dolan. Oh, you want to do the blessing? Oh, we're going to do the blessing.
Okay.
So, you want to do it here? Or you want to
I'll get up there.
do it up there? Okay.
What a tribute. What a tribute to a very, very talented man. You know, these years I've known him, I learned a lot more when I read the paper, the life tribute to the San Diego Union. The details of his life absolutely amazed me. You know, the whole thing about him being in leadership and service, used his talent so completely in everything he did. And he learned how to do most everything in his life. On airways and even sweeping floors. And besides that, you know, one of the things that he had in his office, it's interesting, it's a plaque. And the plaque says, a guy who went from copy to president, copy boy, that meant. And as a result of it, he was always someone that inspired me when I'd go to visit him. He was one that complimented me because he said that I was able to raise more money than anybody he had ever met. He always said that to me. I don't know why, but part of it had to do with Ascension Parish building this place. And as a result of it, it's an honor for me to be with all of you. I mean, look at this crowd, look at the people that he has touched. And with such goodness and kindness, the way he always did it. And his talent was so great without mentioning just not San Diego, but beyond. So it's a privilege for me to be honored to be here with you, to have this luncheon with you, and to share community, because that's one of the things he did so well. So I'd just like to put a blessing on all of us gathered and the food we're about to receive. Lord our God, we ask your blessing on us as we somehow give such recognition to Jim Price today. May you continue to bless him with peace and goodwill as he lives with you in heaven. May the blessing be on the food we're about to receive in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thanks for being here. Glad to have all of you.
Well, thank you, Monsignor. And by the way, I don't know if you knew about the Monsignor. He was the chaplain of the San Diego Chargers.
Yes, I was.
How about that? And you had a dog, and your dog was named Charger. Just thought I'd point that out. Hey, are we hungry? Yes. Are you ready to eat? Yes. All right, we're going to do that right now. By the way, Cupid's Catering is catering our wonderful meal here today. We have tri-tip, yum yum. We have a chicken parmesan, and we also, Jim had to have this. Lynn and I talked about this. We've been planning this for quite some time. Jim had to have shrimp cocktail. So let's all eat a shrimp for Senate Jim. So anyway, now you can get up. Now here's what we're gonna do. We got a format. You know, Jim Price, when he was program director, always wanted his jocks to follow the format. So the format that we have is we're going to call out the table, 5 at a time. So 5 tables at a time. So if you're at table 1 through 5, now you can stand up and go and get some food, okay? And then when table 1 through 5 gets done, we'll go 6 through 10. So 1 through 5 right now. Videos that we're going to show you that I think you'll really enjoy. The video that we've got coming up right now is really a good one because it was a video when Sonny Jim achieved the Radio Life Achievement Award. And we just happened to have the gentleman who did the voiceover for that video. You'll recognize him. He's been in radio here in San Diego for many, many years. He was news director over at KGB. He was part of the News Brothers and his other News Brothers here at Gabriel Wisdom. I would like Gabriel Wisdom and Jeff Prescott is going to be doing the voiceover. Stand up for crying out loud. Come on. Give these men the respect they richly deserve. So on this Career Achievement Award video, you're going to hear a voice, and that is the voice of Jeff Prescott. So without any further ado, we're going to dim the lights. I don't want anybody to stub their toe. We're going to dim the lights so you can really see the video. Here is the video from the Radio Life Achievement Award.
News editor at 18. Announcer. Disc jockey. First voice on the first rock and roll radio station in San Francisco at age 21. Started record hops in the Bay Area. emceed the first Elvis Presley concert in San Francisco and learned to duck and sidestep keys and female underwear. Produced live shows with Chuck Berry, Marvin Gaye, the Beach Boys, and a host of others. Wrote a record column for the San Francisco Examiner. Worked with Gary Owens, Michael Jackson, Robert W. Morgan, Ron Jacobs, and some really good jocks, including Casey Kasem, who replaced him. Became program director in Fresno at 26. emceed one of the first TV bandstand shows. Did the first hang-a-thon from the station's news cruiser, suspended at the top of a 100-foot boom crane for 3 weeks. And Brandy Gale waving happily after obtaining a $100,000 life insurance policy from Lloyd's of London. Walked over 80 miles on a weekend walkathon, ended up in critical condition, but won, if you can call it a win. Operated a teenage nightclub with live bands and top record acts of the day. Came to KDEO in San Diego as program director in 1965. Installed the first oldie format in San Diego. The station achieved the highest ratings in its history and was immediately sold and the format was changed. Gave Tommy Irwin, a.k.a. Shotgun, his first job.
Double play weekend from Radio KDEO. This is Barbara Mason. Got a hitline request for it at 583-8383. Sad, sad girl. 23 before 11 o'clock with Sonny Jim.
The last known air check of Sonny Jim. Was forced into sales at KDEO to put food on the table for a family of 7, a dog, and 2 cats. Sold out of fear for the first 6 months, but grew to love sales and set an all-time sales record, selling $6 spots. Became local sales manager of KSDO and station manager a year later. Changed the format to news talk and hired San Diego's first talk host, Bill Gordon. Put him in the sky room of the El Cortez. The station did well and, of course, was sold. Like Moses, he had to go to the desert, Bakersfield, but became president of the Big 55, KAFY, the longtime top 40 leader in 1972. He worked and learned from Bob Eastman, the owner and founder of the Eastman Rep Firm. Hired back to San Diego in 1974 to become general manager of KGB AM and FM. Made Bob Ifrati sales manager, and he's been paying for that ever since. He was the best man in Bob's surprise wedding, planned by Brandy Gale. The KGB chicken gave the bride away. Took AM Top 40 and FM AOR. KGB FM was named Billboard Station of the Year. On the team that invented the Sky Show, the Homegrown album, and the KGB Chicken, the only station listed with 3 promotions in Billboard magazine's top promotions in the history of radio. Took the AM to all news KCNN and became Ted Turner's first affiliate and got to hear some really good Ted Turner stories. Then changed AM to K-pop and hired the original staff. Left KGB after 10 years due to a difference of opinion with the owners. briefly managed classical KFSD, founded Airwatch Traffic with Steve Springer and wife Brandy Gale, helped sell the initial accounts, was named president of KSDO AM and KS 103. Told Ernie Myers in a cigar smoke-filled New York hotel room he would become the #1 morning personality in San Diego again. And he did. Got the idea to hire Roger Hedgecock, knew Roger was a hit when the mail started running 40-1 against and sponsors started canceling. Sucked it in and let the most capable local talker of our time do his thing. Left KSDO with the highest ratings in the history of both stations. Finally got smart and made participation deal with John Parker, owner of KYXY, Kixie, to become president, general manager, and on the board of directors. Established the station as a soft hits leader, completely remodeled the studios and offices, and installed the first digital editing machine in San Diego radio. Was two-term president of the San Diego Employers Association. Media chairman of I Love a Clean San Diego, and he still can't throw a gum wrapper in the street to this day. Was a founder of the San Diego Radio Broadcasters Association. First retired in 1991, and he may make it stick after the 5th retirement in 1998.
Again, thank you, Jeff Prescott, for a great voiceover. Yeah, we love that. We have another video that we're going to be showing, and you're going to hear Sonny Jim talk about a kid peering through the window of the radio station. I was 13 years old at the time. Yes, I was peering through the window, and he asked me to come in and listen to a song that he was going to add to the playlist. He said, if I had this record, it would be the first group to be played on San Diego radio and all over the country, as a matter of fact. He was the first program director to add this song, and he had me come in and said, what do you think of that song? And I said, of course, I didn't know him that well then, and I just wanted to make sure I made a good impression. So well, Mr. Price, I really like that song. The song was California Dreaming, the Mamas and the Papas. Yeah. Gonna hear more about that. Jim took me, along with his news director, Tom Schaefer, he took me to my first Charger game. I'll always remember that. Took this kid who he just hired. He hired me to, pass out the swag and help the jocks like Chuck Cooper and some of the other jocks that were there doing remotes at the San Diego Community Concourse. Now I got to really know Jim, and I got to know his family, and that's where I became a part of his family. He invited me, him and Gail, they invited me to their home in Fletcher Hills quite a few times, and I got to know the family there, and it was so great. Another thing you're not going to hear in the next video that I want to tell you about is I had in 1966, I had this little motor scooter. It was a Honda 65, and Jim, as you know, was really active and really into sports, and he loved basketball. So he used to play basketball down at down in El Cajon. Gillespie Field, thank you. There was a thing down there, and so anyway, hey, Tommy, take me down to the place. So we get back on my motor scooter and we go down Fletcher Parkway, and I take him to the gym, and then pick me up in 45 minutes. So I went down there, picked him up, and then we come up that hill on Fletcher Parkway. Oh man, I'm glad he didn't fall off my motor scooter. He didn't really want to talk about that, but I thought I'd bring it up. You hear Jeff Prescott talking about Brandy Gale. And I'll tell you how she got that name, but Brandy Gale, I remember when she got her side gig. She was a wonderful mother, by the way, but she wanted to go to work. And Jim was on the air, and so she got a job at Whitefront in the record department. How about that? Got the program director at Radio KDO, and now she's got a job at Whitefront in the record department. And I remember distinctly, Jim was going, oh, this is great. I want to see how much she's going to be making. And he's calculating, oh man, if she does this, she'll be making some nice dough. but I'll always remember that. Later on, my wife Linda, we bought her other side hustle, which would be the media monitoring service. So Linda took over for Randy Gale, and we bought that service, and we did it for what, a couple of years, I guess. Yeah, more than a couple of years. I lose track. So anyway, now you hear that Jim went to Bakersfield, and as a matter of fact, Lynn and I were talking about the time in she was you were 13 when I sang in Bakersfield. You said I pulled up to the place and I just got out of my car and left the doors open. Is that what I had?
Yeah,
I don't recall that.
crooked.
Well, I was crooked. Oh, I recall that.
Driveway and threw open the doors.
Ask Linda when she drives with me. She's very afraid. A lot of people don't like to drive with me. But anyway, no, that sounds like me. Anyway, Dave Conley and I, I was between gigs at the time, so we didn't have anything to do. We wanted to go and help Jim Price out at this station in Bakersfield, which I had worked for before. I'd been in Bakersfield before, so I had a little, I knew the city. So, and as a matter of fact, that's where I did my first television kids show on KDRO Channel 23 in Bakersfield. Believe it or not, I was Nemo the Clown. Yeah. And in the television station, ABC 23, to this day, they have a picture of me as Nemo the Clown in front of the television camera. And then they have another picture of me when I did the show at Channel 10, Words of Pop, and I had my own wall. But anyway, Jim was incredible. He had to bring KAFY back to life. And he really admired Dave Conley. And so I did the afternoon show. Dave was the program director. And we brought KAFY back to the #1 position in Bakersfield. And that was all because of Jim. He organized the sales department and they were making money. What do you sell spots in Bakersfield for? $5? I don't know. But Jim knew how to make money. That's one thing he did know how to do. He knew how to make money. And Jim was present. As a matter of fact, this Sunday, I'm going to be celebrating my 10-year anniversary of getting my star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Lily, you were there with Jim, and his name was in the script. I made sure when the president of the Chamber of Commerce, Laurent Gubler, read the script, that Sonny Jim's name was in there as giving me my first job in radio. And so I went to Laurent and I said, hey, I want you to meet Sonny Jim Price. So he met Jim. Now he's got a face with a name. So when he read Jim's name in front of all the television cameras and the people on Hollywood Boulevard, he said, and Jim Price, who is with us here today. Remember that? So anyway, what we're going to be entertaining here tonight or today. The lights are gone. I think it's nighttime. But anyway, the next video that I think you'll really enjoy was Jim. He gave me an order, and Lily, you remember the order he gave me. There was a guy by the name of Jack Vincent did the all-night show. He looked just like Clark Gable. And so before my model train hobby, I built a Tonight Show set in my garage. No, I didn't get the idea from Kramer on Seinfeld. Way before. So I have the multicolored curtains, the riser and the backdrops and the plants and everything like that. So we had Marty Levine come over. He was Johnny Carson. And he interviewed Jack Vincent. And I was the Ed McMahon character. And so anyway, we got this interview together. And when Jack passed at the age of 99, we used this video in a tribute to him at Lito's restaurant. And if you recall, at the end of that, Jim, not easily impressed, but Lily and Jim came up to me and Jim said, this was really incredible. It was like Jack Vincent was alive. It was like he was with us. And if anything happens to me, and he pointed to my chest, if anything happens to me, I want you to do the video. Well now, I didn't have any video at all on Jim. And I said, how are we gonna do this? So I called my friend Tommy Sablon. He produces the show Sully, Little Tommy, Rusty Nails. And I said, hey, I don't have any video. And Tommy said, we'll put him on the show. Jim was so good on the show, Tommy brought him back for a second show. And that's what we're gonna show here in just a moment. He's so modest. He's the producer of that show. And the guy who put together the video, you gotta realize, you just don't put together this video. He had to look for places to edit. And Devin, will you please stand up, Devin? Come on. All right. Tommy Sablon, come on. Stand up, take a bow, buddy. Oh, he's there he goes. All right. If it wasn't for Tommy Sablon and Devin, we wouldn't have this video here today. So thank you very much. You know, as this other video denoted, Ernie Myers worked for Jim Price as the morning guy. And he had an idea for a talk show in the afternoon. He needed one more guy. And so that's why he looked at Roger Hedgecock. We're gonna hear more about that. I'm just gonna let the video do the talking. But there was one guy in this room who was on Facebook, and he's here. And he said, you know, I gotta tell you, Jim Price did more for my career when I was at KGB than anybody. I'm talking about Jim McGinnis. Jim, will you stand up and take a bow? I hope I quoted you correctly.
That's close.
That's close. Anyway, one of the things, and I'll end with this. Thank you, Linda. She's sweating over here. You're talking to her. So anyway, one thing that Jim was very, very cognizant about, he wanted to make sure that we were putting money away. He said, are you saving your money? You gotta save your money, because that's power. And I said, Jim, we are. We're taking care of it. We've got a financial planner. We're gonna be okay. And he kept reminding us over and over again, right, Linda, you remember that? That's it. So anyway, thanks to my dad, Sonny Jim, for keeping us saving money. I'd like to read a chapter from the Bible, John chapter 14, verse 2, and I want to thank the Monsignor for not stealing my thunder and using it before I did, because it's really good. In my Father's house, there are many rooms. If it were not so, I would have told you. I'm going there to prepare a place for you. And if I go to prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you may be there where I am. You know the way and the place where I am going, and that's where you will be. That's where St. Jim is now, in his Father's house. Man, I almost got it. Words. Please forgive it. All right, now let's have some fun. Let's break out the video. Here we go. The video.
More music station, they wanted you to know that they played more records than Station Q or Station B. And that idea was that of program director Sonny Jim Price, who years later gave us the KGB chicken.
Here on a double play weekend from Radio KDO, this is Barbara Mason. Got a hitline request for it at 583-8383. Sad girl, 23 before 11 o'clock with Sonny Jim.
Sonny Jim Price was a very innovative leader in San Diego radio. Years later, he put Roger Hedgecock on the radio. You know, he had the knack to hire the right people at Radio KDO to make them sound good.
This is the much more music station, KDEO El Cajon, serving San Diego and all Southern California.
Hey there, live from the Loft 100 studios in sunny San Diego, California. It is On the Air with myself, Rusty Nails, Little Tommy, and of course, Shotgun Tom.
You better believe it, baby. You better believe it, baby. Yeah.
And the reason that we're probably all here in the first place.
Yes.
The legendary.
Absolutely, right here.
Jim Price.
Yes.
I don't think any of our bosses would have existed had you not hired them in the beginning, right?
Well, I've been around a few, yes.
I was talking to Tommy this morning and the team, and I read an article in the LA Times about you in 1988. And I was not anywhere near in the radio business that, well, I was about 5 years away or so, I guess. But I thought to myself, man, I want to be in that business. And do you remember who wrote that article, Tom?
Yes, it was T.K. Arnold.
T.K. Arnold.
Wow.
Thomas K.
My
Arnold.
favorite writer.
Man, I'll tell you what. Well, we got two legends again here. Well, three legends.
Wait a minute.
Let me tell you
legends, me
this.
and
Let me
Tommy.
tell you this. I want to say something about Jim Price. The KGB homegrown albums, that's
that you?
Jim Price.
Yeah.
The
Obi
thing
Bop
called-
was you?
We did 5 of those. And every time we put it out, it would be the biggest selling album in San Diego.
Yeah.
About 50,000 plus.
And speaking of Obi Bop, I still remember the words. Hanging around an ocean beach I
you gonna
found,
sing
and
that?
it makes me write no more lines.
Woo! Look who else
And
is
then,
here.
but wait a
peaked.
minute,
Hold
that's
on.
not it. The KGB chicken.
Was that you? Did you
Is
dare take
that
Ted
man.
Gianolis? Really?
Yes.
And one more iconic. This is iconic.
He named the Padres.
No, he named the KGB Sky Show.
Did
it's
you
that
really?
guy right there,
Jim Price.
Jim Price.
I don't know why we're even here. Let's just have Jim talk
That
about this
man
whole
right
thing.
there, Jim Price.
Oh, yes.
Probably, hold on, probably the most popular outro of a band leaving or a performer leaving on stage comes from you.
The guy who said the words, Elvis has left the building.
Did you know that?
Jim Price. Did you know that?
When he was a disc jockey. Yeah.
That's Jim Price.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell us your Elvis story.
Yeah.
How did
Oh,
that happen?
come on.
Yeah, remember,
This is a great story.
This is the best one. This is the best one.
It is a good one.
Oh, Jesus.
That's a good one.
Okay.
Okay, you're a kid. You're in San Francisco.
It was his first concert at the Russ Auditorium in San Francisco, and I was a jock on a radio station that was probably the most popular station for that demo any place. Well, I was a disc jockey. I was the first rock and roll disc jockey in San Francisco on that station, and during that time period, Elvis did his first show at the Russ Auditorium, and he came on, did his thing. So Elvis came out, did his thing, and I'm up there on stage, and all of a sudden I'm hearing keys go clink, 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 clink. I look down on the stage, man, and there are keys all over the stage. I go, what is this? All over the stage. I go, what the hell is that? And then the young ladies all were going crazy over him, and I started hearing clunk, 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 clunk. And then I looked down, and there are panties all over the stage.
Oh, yeah. If I had a nickel.
He's finished that set. I figured he'd be back for the next set.
Yeah.
He didn't show. He had his big old black Cadillac parked out in front of the auditorium. And the next thing I'm saying is, Elvis has left the building.
Wow. Wait a minute. That's a great idea. That's almost like, that's an Americana.
Yeah, it is.
Like, people say that every day.
Yeah, when something is,
Dude.
That's it.
What year was that?
I think it was 57.
Oh, yeah. Panties were bigger then. They could throw them from, they could throw them from the balcony.
They're like T-shirts.
Nowadays, they go Let's try it
Exactly
with you.
right.
13-year-old that loved radio came to you asking for a job. Can you tell us about me?
Well, I don't think he was even asking me for a job. He was just peering over the glass, man. And he kept peering over the glass. So I finally invited him in one day because we were a little Radio KDO, which was a top 40 station at the time. Anyway, he comes in, and I picked all the music for the station because I guess I was one of the pioneers of rock and roll, or at least white bread rock and roll.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I had a record there, and I said, I want you to listen to this. Tell me what you think of it. Do you like this? He played it. And he said, yeah, I like it. Yeah, okay, yeah. I said, okay, well, I think I'm going to add it. So, of course, it was the Mamas and Papas.
I was going to say, what's the record? It was the Mamas and Papas.
California Dreaming.
California
How
Dreaming.
did 13-year-old kid with a beard at that time?
Oh, not at all.
Same
Not
beard.
at all.
Weird.
Come on,
yeah.
How did you get started in radio? What was day one like? Were you peering over the glass somewhere?
No, I was a kid growing up in Kansas City, and I started my college. In fact, I only finished the first year of college because I got my first radio job.
So you're smart.
Well, it did work out that way. It doesn't always work out that way.
Yeah.
So anyway, my first job was I was doing a part-time thing, editing news on a local station, Kansas City. And that summer, the program director came to me and he said, hey, he said, you want to get into radio now? I said, yeah.
Sure, right.
Of course.
Yeah.
I said, okay, well, you go see this guy. And so anyway, I went over and I saw a guy by the name of Dave Siegel. And he said, well, when can you start?
Yeah.
I said, when you want me to start.
Right.
Tomorrow.
Wow. So
outside of Kansas City.
Isn't that how it always works?
Was there a record person with a briefcase saying, hey, Mr. Price,
No, they brought them in now.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'd get 75, 80, 45s a week.
Wow.
And I had to go through all of them and maybe add 2 or 3 a week to our top 40 sheet.
I love the 45s. They flew so quickly.
That's right.
Did you ever just take one and throw it out and then go, oh shoot, that's the #1 hit. I should have played.
No,
that.
Rusty, only you did that.
And Roger, so when, I know you as San Diego mayor, you're my favorite mayor. Now you're my favorite apple farmer. But how did you get started in radio? Like, I want to know.
It's a classic story.
Yeah,
so I bounced out of mayor, right? So I've resigned.
We remember.
One
way to put it.
And bounce out.
Get out.
And the guy at KSDO calls me.
Can you tell us about hiring Roger Hedgecock?
Well, I was sitting one day, because I'd hired a lot of the talk show people. And I go, who the hell am I going to get now? We were one short. And I thought, if he doesn't make it in this lawsuit, he's going to have a job.
So he calls.
He's the manager of KSDO, which is in a remodeled beauty salon on 30th and University, and is number 92, among 30 radio stations in San Diego.
Yep.
I called him up and I said, Roger, I'd met him socially a couple of times, and I said, Roger, have you got any ideas about what you're going to do if this lawsuit doesn't go the way you want it to?
And he says to me, listen, I hope the worst doesn't happen, but if it does and you have to leave the office, come and see me, because you've been a guest on our shows, and I really like the way you sound on the radio.
And he said, I'm going to win it. So I said, I understand that. Yeah. But I said, just in case you don't, I think you'd make a hell of a talk show person.
Yeah, right. So I'm going to go into real estate. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to do whatever.
And the phone goes dead for about 30 seconds. And he says, well, maybe we ought to talk about it a little more.
Yeah. Right.
So we did end up talking about it more.
He calls me, and he says, you got to come in.
And it got to the point of negotiation, and I said, well, I know how much you're making as a mayor. You're making $40K. And I said, and he said, yeah. He said, that's right. And he said, no, I'm not going to do it for anything less. I said, well, I had a figure in mind for you. What's that? I said, $50K.
Wow.
I took care of that.
And the first day I come in as People Magazine, CBS, because there was these other mayors like Koch in L.A. and what's his name in New York, and all these guys tried to do talk shows, and they failed.
Right. There ain't nobody in San Diego that knows the potholes and all the ins and outs.
Right, that's very true.
Like Roger Hedgecock, man. He's the mayor, man. He knows whatever is going on, he knows.
So I get on there, and it's my first day, and I've got the flu.
Wow.
I don't know, not the current flu,
yeah.
but some flu.
Oh, yeah.
And some kind of flu. And first thing I said was,
well, he probably is the smartest guy that I've ever hired.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mom, it's really me. I mean, I actually have a job. I'm happy.
Yeah.
But I don't sound like me. But the first show, that was how it happened, was because of Jim Price.
Wow.
Speaking of garbage, you remember I Love a Clean San Diego?
Absolutely.
Yep.
I started that.
What?
Of course you did.
Come on, bring the bell, baby.
And introduced the Beatles on stage at Balboa Stadium.
Wow.
And KFMB had all the money, man, in the sales effort.
Yeah, they did.
I always remember Lubox. You guys remember Lubox?
Oh, yeah. I used to
In there.
eat
Well, that's
all
where
the
this
time.
picture was taken.
Yeah.
But anyway, I remember.
If the red Naugahyde seats could talk there, huh?
Oh, yeah.
They'd be in jail.
Yeah.
They're not there anyway. It's Solar now.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Anyway, whenever I got into a contest to see what we could do as far as getting a client,
Yeah.
and it was wine and dine time,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew that if they were starting to take their client to Lubox, they'd outspend us every time.
And back then, that's how you got.
And outdrink us every time.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't know. We remember Paul Palmer. Come on.
No, not Paul, but his sales manager.
Okay, I've got to say.
Who?
Cliffy?
No. Who's the manager?
He gave me.
Act
it out.
Yes,
Sonny Jim Price.
Sonny Jim Price.
He
There you go.
gave me my first job at Radio.
And I took him to lunch every year on January 20th.
And the next time he got sick, I think he filled in for you.
That's right.
I did.
got sick quite a bit.
No, I did.
And that's how
he got started.
Like,
You gotta take better care of yourself.
I was finishing my air shift on KSDO, and Kogo guy got sick. And said, hey, come on over.
Yeah.
What we got for you today?
There you go.
Are you sure?
Oh, Jimmy. Jimmy, I was told this story because I love you, man.
Sonny Jim.
This is the guy.
Well, you flossed it up a little bit, but
Well, I
it's
did.
good.
Oh, yeah, the good parts I left out.
Hey, Roger, I got a Chuck Berry story for
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
I was had a nightclub in Fresno, and I booked in Chuck Berry, and so he comes in, but he comes up to me and he says, "I ain't gonna play until I get my money." I said, "Well, Chuck, geez, I mean, we got at the box. No, I ain't playing until I get my money." So he's on stage, and I go back up to the box office, and they get a big paper sack, and I filled it with dollars and fives, because that's what we were making at that time.
Sure.
I bring it up to him. He takes it, he dumps it on the stage behind the curtain. He opens his guitar case, and he starts counting it. Choo, 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 choo. And he counted every penny.
No kidding.
Closed it up, put in the guitar, and knocked hell out of the thing.
Wow.
So that's my Chuck Berry story.
Same story.
Same story.
Same story.
Well, I
He
think,
had to have the show me the dough.
yeah, that's it, man. Get me paid.
Okay, that's Chuck Berry. Now
Started with
Sonny
Jim
Jim
with him.
Price.
And I remember one time Roger and I were on a trip in England.
Yes.
And we ran through a very ancient cemetery.
Yes, we did.
Ran through it.
Yeah,
Illegally?
we went through and stopped and looked at these markers, maybe 1600
Wow.
or whatever.
Wow.
That was a hell of a day.
Will you, hey, before we go today, will you say one thing? for
What?
me? Look into the camera. I don't know, any one of the cameras. There's a million of them. Say, ladies and gentlemen, the Sully Band.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Sully Band.
All right.
All right.
Come on.
All right. Great.
Hey, was that fun or not? Oh, man. Is the mic on? Hang on, we're gonna get my mic on. I don't need one, but. No, you actually don't. I don't, yeah. Okay, let me adjust the microphone here. Hey, was that fun or not? Yeah. Didn't it feel like Jim was with us right here? I mean, we got the feeling he's here, and he is here. And one more guy I want to thank. He picked up the tab for that video, and that is Sully, the host on there. I want to make sure he's thanked. But again, Tommy Sablon, little Tommy Sablon, Devin, you guys are true stars. You put this thing together. You entertain all of these people. Again, a big round of applause for Tommy Sablon and Devin. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to lift your glasses, your iced teas, your water, whatever you're drinking. And I would like to propose a toast to the great Sonny Jim Price. Let's drink up. Here, here. Okay. I hope you enjoyed that. We sure did. Now it's time to hear from you. We got a little open mic segment, And if you'd like to come over, maybe you got a little story that you'd like to tell about Sonny Jim, we'd sure like to have you come up to our microphone right now. So, if you will, for the first person who wants to come up. By the way, you know, Rusty Nails passed away after that show, and we do miss him too. Let's hear it for Rusty Nails. I love that line. Hey, what year were those panties going on stage, Jim? Well, it's about 1955. Oh yeah, pennies were bigger than that. You know, used for a pup tent. Anyway, who wants to come on? Who wants to be the first? Come on up here. Oh, Dave. Oh, wait a minute. Excuse me. Dave Price, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks to all of you for being here today. I wanted to start off by saying a big thank you to Tom for hosting the event. We couldn't have done it without you. And also thank Tommy and Devin for putting that video together. That was terrific, it really was. But a big thank you to my sister Lynn for pulling the venue together, and the caterer, and all the other details. Thanks. Yeah, thank you for Stephen Bowersfeld for running the sound system for us. Good job.
Thank you.
So it's a little intimidating to get up and talk in front of a room full of people that talk for a living, but I'm going to do the best I can. I have less than a page of notes here. Most of it is to keep me on track so I don't forget something. But I could get off script. I am my father's son. Over the last 20, 25 years, Dad and I developed a routine. And I would call him every Sunday evening, and we talked about all kinds of things. We talked about the kids, we talked about the family, we talked about football, especially during football season. And you might have noticed one of the pictures that scrolled through here was Dad and I at what turned out to be the last football game at Qualcomm Stadium, which was won by the Kansas City Chiefs, by the way. So anyway, we talked about all kinds of things. We talked about investments and the economy. We talked about politics. These last 6 or 8 years, we talked a lot about politics. We talked about history. We talked about what books he was reading, and there was usually more than one at a time that he was reading. And we also talked occasionally about religion and spirituality. Now, Dad was not a religious man. He enjoyed the pleasures of this life, and he had a few regrets. There were some situations and relationships that he would have liked to have turned out better. But here's a fun fact. At the age of 82, Dad became Reverend Price. He was registered as a reverend so that he could do wedding ceremony for my daughter Erin and my son-in-law Ryan. But Reverend Price was not a religious man, and sometimes when we spoke, he would occasionally seem a little troubled by the fact that he didn't have a demonstrable faith. He didn't go to church and things like that. And so I would direct the conversation to spirituality, and I reminded him that all the major religions of the world share certain fundamental principles. Be kind. Use your time and your talent and your resources to make the world a little better than when you found it. And to try to help your fellow man. And he did. In these respects, he lived a very good life. He was kind to everybody he met. It wasn't just people in his colleagues and the people in his profession. It was everybody, from the busboy to Ted Turner and radio station owners and everybody in between. He used his time and his talent, his resources, for all kinds of charitable and not-for-profit causes. We saw many of the things that he did in these videos. There were a lot more that he did in his professional career. but in his personal life as well. He was the president of the Homeowners Association in his neighborhood for 20 years. He served on the board of the Barris Foundation. And there were a lot of other things that he did in his personal life. But I think most of all, he really tried to help other people. He genuinely wanted to help other people to achieve their goals and their dreams and to be successful. He used to say that his talent in life was he always tried to get people to do things that they didn't think they could do. And that wasn't in a manipulative kind of way. He genuinely wanted to see everyone succeed and be the best person that they could be, whether it be career goals or family goals or whatever it was. And so, in those respects, he lived a life of good, and he lived a very good life. So, I want to say thank you to everyone here, everyone that couldn't be here, because without all of you, he couldn't have fulfilled his purpose in life. And we wouldn't have this beautiful mosaic that was the life of Jim Price to remember. Okay, so I'll wrap this up with a little bit of a story. So during Dad's life, he often referred to himself as Jimmy Price or Jimmy. And I think that started maybe with his first radio station owner, Dave Siegel, who used to call him Jimmy. But as an example, after a meal at home, as he was getting ready to get up to do the dishes, and he was a legendary dishwasher, he might say, "Here we go, Jimmy Price," or before a workout, or before going to Costco, he might say, "All right, let's go, Jim," or Jimmy. So I'd like to propose a toast, another toast.
Yeah, right.
Here's to you, Jimmy Price, for a good life, well lived. Thank you. Thank you. Now for some funny stories.
You know, I was concerned about the sound. Did the sound sound okay to everybody here? Yeah. Right? There's a lot of places, you know, you go in and it sounds too loud and it hurts your ears, and it's kind of crazy. You can't hear the video, you can't hear the speakers. But since I was so concerned about the sound, I brought one of my buddies, who I have breakfast with every Wednesday. He does a lot of the entertainment at the San Diego Zoo, the San Diego Wild Animal Park, actually it's Safari Park. And so he donated that big tall thing to make this sound system just a little bit better. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for Dave Smith, Crazy Dave. He did the night show at KBS 95, and he also worked for Sunny Jim at KYXY. Dave, thank you for the great sound. Really appreciate it. Now, let's use Dave's great sound for our first speaker, or our second speaker, I should say. Anyway, and don't be shy. If you got something to say, we definitely want to hear from you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Bill Dagersher. I think a lot of you, we know each other for a long time. Some of you may not know me. But I was fortunate enough to spend 40 years at KGB, and the first 10 was with Sonny Jim Price. Now, I'll never forget, I'd been at the station approximately 6 months, and things were rather chaotic. The programming of a station needs to be equal to sales, but back then, programming ruled the roost at KGB, and sales were second-class citizens. But nonetheless, a change was coming. Jim Price took over in January 1974, and there's a couple of us probably in this room that were here, that were there at the old station on Pacific Coast Highway when Jim had his first staff meeting. That was pretty amazing. And here I'm a young guy, 6 months out of college, and I'm listening to Jim talk about his vision for KGB, for the future. And it was amazing. After that speech, I felt the vibe in the room. Everybody felt like we were gonna make things work, we were gonna work together, and I was thrilled to be there, and I wanted to do more. So right about that time, I started figuring out a way to get into the sales department, because those are the guys with the hot clothes and the Porsches. So I started hitting Jim up for a sales job, and mind you, I was an overnight guy, doing all the dirty jobs that had to be done between midnight and 8 a.m. So Jim, I tried to say hi to him in the morning when I was getting off work and he was coming in. And he said hi, he was a very nice guy. But I figured, this guy doesn't know who I am. So I went back to my apartment, got the only suit on that I owned, took a shower, shaved, came back in my suit, waited for him to get in and said, Jim, this is how I can look, I can be in sales. And whatever it was, he gave me a shot in sales to start. April Fool's Day, 1974, April 1st. I'm going, okay, is this real? It was. Now, for some of you who know me, there was also something going on at that time. Oh, the KGB chicken. And I was kind of involved in that one. And I never forget, I said, Jim, thank you for the sales job. I'm so thrilled, but I can't do this chicken thing. I'm going to be in sales. And he looked at me and I thought he was going to solve my problem. And he said, you got a problem. I said, yes, I do. So, I went out and I found Ted, and the rest is mascot history. But working for Jim for those 10 years was phenomenal, being on the inside as a salesman. And I'll just share a couple of brief stories. In those sales meetings, and we had a great Bob Ifrady as a sales manager, we had great sales reps. And some of them are not with us anymore. Scott Palmer's, Doug Ogilvie, but we had great guys. Jim Eaton was there, and Joan Westmoreland. And we had a great core, and Frank McGrath, all of you who knew Frank. And you got the feeling when you were at the KGB sales staff that anything was possible, because Jim was that kind of guy. He said, I want you guys to give me your ideas, and if it works, we're gonna talk about it. And back then, it seems like a long time ago, things could actually happen on radio and you didn't have to make money with it. It might make it as best for the audience and the station. So we had that feeling in the sales office that anything was possible. We were all a team, we're all winning, and KGB was starting to percolate. And I'll never forget the other thing Jim said in that meeting. One day, out of the blue, randomly, he said, look around right now to all you salespeople. Look around. I want you to remember this day. This is gonna be one of the best days of your life. Just look around. And it was a magic moment. And I think we've all had those moments in our working career. And that was an incredible magic moment. I was there for the Sky Show, the homegrown, the chicken. And when Jim left us, that was a real tough one. That was a shock. That was a big shock to me when Jim left the station. I understand why. At the time I didn't, but now I do. And he went on to doing all those other great things. But that was a tough one for us. But I remained friends with Jim through the entire time that he had those other jobs. And then, last but not least, I retired 10 years ago, and I said, Jim, we're gonna start having lunch. So Jim, Frank McGrath, Bob Ifrady, and myself, we'd have lunch 3 of our times every year for the last 10 years. And it was so special. And the other thing I was able to do for the KGB 40th anniversary of the Sky Show, able to take him to participate in that Sky Show and to get the recognition and due that he deserves for that. So I'm so happy I could spend that time with Jim. I knew him for 49 years. He gave me my first job like he did with so many of you out there. And he's truly one of a kind, and I miss him, but I'm so happy I could spend the time with him, and I'll treasure his friendship forever. Thank you.
All right, who else do we have? Who wants to come up and say a few words? Yeah, come on up, please. Hey, I meant to mention Michael Berger is here. Look at that. Remember the Berger and Prescott show? There they are right there. Now he's making wine and killing gophers.
Hi, everybody.
name is Blanca. Some of you guys know me, some guys don't know me. But I used to work once upon a time for Jim Price and Brandy Price. I was 20-something, and like everybody's talking, he was positive. He believed in me. He made me believe that I can make it through life. And I did. All his advices. Since day one that I started working for them, it was all the time like, you need to read, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I was saying, what this guy was trying to tell me all this time when I was so young. And I started listening to his advice, and I said, this is the father that I always wanted to advise me, because being part Mexican, I didn't have that. They were tough. But what didn't kill me made me stronger. And I became more outgoing because of those advices. And also Brandy, you have to stop being like that. You're strong. Because she was a very strong woman. And don't fuck with me, she told me. Okay. So those things will always, I always put it on my business. Like on some of my guys. That's her. It's not me. So, through all these years that I have known him and talked to him, and then Lily came into his life, I got it that it was the best thing that he ever had. And I want to thank you for being part of his life for these 20-something years. Because he was a guy who cannot be vulnerable. And I was worried because Brandy, him and I, we made a pact before she died that we would look after each other. And he know that he said, I know, Kayla, that you will be there for me, he told me. So I got to spend time with him last year ago. I came to San Diego, I say, the hotel, and I said, I want to see all my friends, but I want to see you and spend time. But Lily could not drive him all the time because she had the kids and all that, so I said, it's my turn now. I'll get a chauffeur and I'll bring you back and forth. And we see each other. Really? I said, yes. It's time for me to pay back some things too. And he told me, I'm so proud of you. You're the daughter that I always adopted, and you can still make it. So last year I made a big deal of my business. I do luxury rentals. So I closed a big deal for me that I thought I was not going to get to those numbers. So I called him and I said, hey Jim, I did this and that, and I got this, I closed a deal. I never thought I was going to do this money in my life. He says, I told you you can do whatever you wanted. And you can do more. But you never put your head down. Never in front of nobody. You came from so not giving you opportunity to go to school, and you did it. So you have to believe in yourself. So I did it, and I want to say thank you to him. We said bye that day, and I think both we knew that it was kind of the last day that we were going to see each other. I came around. I feel like I wanted to turn around and hug him, but I said, no, I'm going to be strong. Maybe I'm just going to make him cry. And the chauffeur brought him to his house, and he came back and told me he never stopped crying. He said that he loved me, loved you so much, because I love her so much. I love Blanca so much that I can't tell you how much she's a great person. He told me that the chauffeur told me that he said about me. And I turned around crying, he turned around crying without even knowing each other that we did that. And that was our bye. Goodbye. So, wherever he is, I know he's looking over us. And you guys made him happy as a family. And I want to say thank you again to Lily for being there and getting all the family together as well. Okay? I love you all. Thank you.
You know, one of the things that Jim was very proud of, he started air wash traffic out of his own pocket. He started that. We had one of his traffic reporters here that was on there talking about traffic, talking about Mike McGregor. Mike, come on up here, buddy. Come on up, let's hear from you. And I want to hear from some more people. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah.
I'll go next.
Are you going to go next?
I'll go next.
Oh. All right, here's Mike McGregor.
Thank you, Tommy. Yeah, he was one that he said we were about 5 or 6 of us started with AirWatch, you know, and it just looks good to us, and you know, okay, we'll do this, you know. So we did that for a while. But I think the biggest part of my being with Shotgun Tom, and you know, and because he was just a little guy, he'd come in the radio station at KDEO, and he would sit behind me while I was spinning the hits, and that's how I met this man. And when I saw him in the Walk of Fame, I thought, man, that's fantastic. The one thing I really do with Sonny Jim, because he and I were on the same page. I mean, when I first got to KDEO, he was a program director, but not the sales manager. We had our first meeting. I was there a month. I was the music director, and so we're sitting there, and Sonny Jim's right next to me, and he says, I said, how is this going to go? And he said, well, I think we're doing fine. The sales manager and the station manager said, hey, we're doing great. We got great ratings. Everything's fine. He says, but I have a problem with a little bit of the music. And he said, Mike, this is your job. And I said, well, what is it? He says, I think you're playing a little bit of too much Clarence Creedwater. And Sonny Jim was sitting next to me, and he goes, and I said, what? And he goes, and Sonny Jim goes, and so, after the meeting, we had Perry Allen, we had Sam Schwann, we had Royce Johnson, and an all-night guy named Fletcher Parkway, who just got out of jail, I think. It seems a little strange. But after the meeting was over, the sales manager or the program manager said, okay, that's all we're going to do, but I just want you to remember, I don't know what I'm thinking about, but think about it. And I'll never forget that, because a few years later, I was at Larry Himmel's memorial, and that's the last time I saw Sonny Jim, because we messed around a lot. He said, as we were walking out, he said to me, he said, Mike, do you remember what the parting words were? That's something you should never forget. And I said, what was that, Sonny Jim? He says, I don't know what I'm thinking about, but think about it. And I said, thank you very much, that's all I need to know. And Sonny Jim was great. Thank you very much.
Hey, let's hear from our audio video guy. Right, come on up here, give him the respect he deserves. I didn't mean to cut you out. Take it away.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We'll bring this up a little bit. Hey, first of all, I want to thank all of you for being here today. I know that Jim would have just loved this. If you were back here right now looking at this, you would have been so happy and so impressed with the quality of this presentation. So I'm Stephen Bowersfeld. I'm the brother-in-law of Michael Price. I knew Jim and Brandy, though, 10 years before he actually married my sister, so it was kind of a unique situation. So about Jim, one of the things, I want to just give you 2 quick lessons of things he taught me, and then I want to tell you a story about an experience that I had with Jim that was just amazing. First of all, as most of you know, Jim was really a natural leader. He really understood and loved people, and really understood how to work with people to get the best out of them. And one of the things he told me as I was aspiring to be a leader was hire the best people that you possibly can, and then give them the freedom, give them the ability to go out and just do what they're going to do, and try to stay out of their way as much as possible. And so that meant a lot to me, and I really took that to heart. And the other thing that Jim taught me was that in life, you know, we often are faced with really tough decisions. And he told me that he had several really emotional, tough family decisions that he had to make in his life, and that, you know, he didn't regret the decisions that he made. It was the ones that he didn't make that he mostly regretted. He did feel bad for the emotional impact of some of his decisions, but he said to me, you know, with taking great risks comes great rewards. And that's just so true in life, for us. The experience I want to share with you briefly is about 23 years ago. It's interesting that we've heard about Jimmy calling himself Jimmy, because this is related to that. My sister was having her son, James Michael Price, and invited Jim to come and observe the birth. And Jim had never seen a live birth like that, and I had delivered my son, so I was kind of standing there knowing what to expect. But as Jimmy Price, who is in South Carolina, Mike talked about that he's in Navy school right now, as he was emerging into this world, Jim was standing next to me, and he kind of was watching this, and he leans in, and he just starts to get really excited. And like a football follow the coach, watching his son run down the sideline to score the winning touchdown, he started to chant, "Come on, Jimmy. Come on, Jimmy. Come on, Jimmy." And everybody in the room is looking over at him like, what the hell? I can only imagine what little Jimmy was thinking. So that was really special and meant so much to him. Thank you so much, Becky, for allowing him to experience that. I'll leave you with this. I'm going to really miss that interesting grin that he would give you when he wasn't quite sure if there was bullshit going on or around him. And I'm going to miss that infectious laugh. You just had that laugh that you just went, wow, And I always felt that when you were with him, that you were with him, that you were the center, and that he really focused on you. So, thank you again so much for being here today.
Tommy Sablon, ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the producer of the greatest weekend show on the air with Sully, Little Tommy, and Rusty Nails. Tommy Sablon, everybody. Let's give him a round of applause.
Hello. How you guys doing?
Great.
I didn't work. I didn't work for Jim Price. Never did. But I wouldn't have been on the radio without him. My love for radio started in 1974. And watching that video, that's when he came to KGB. And this went out. And let's wait. I didn't touch anything.
Makeup!
I think your battery just dies with that.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and I have batteries, so you just talk.
Hey, adjust the microphone, Tommy.
I can talk without the mic.
Yes.
All right. So my love for radio started in 1974. And watching the video of his life, he came to KGB that year. And I love that guy right there, Jim McGinnis. I love Gabriel Wisdom, Michael Berger, Jeff Prescott. I just met Bruce Tucker for the first time. KGB was everything to me. And I would be at my house with those old stereos in the living room, listening to KGB, wondering what the heck is going on in the walls of the radio. Sorry. That's right. And it was Jim Price that was responsible for these guys being on the radio. And then I just realized I also loved Shotgun Tom. I mean, I'm 58, but when I was 10, 11, 12, I listened to KGB. I listened to Shotgun on KCBQ. And all my life, I would say it was because of these guys that I got into radio. It's because of that guy. And I just wanted to say that. You know, I was the kid that bought those homegrown albums. I was that kid at the Padres game or concerts following the KGB Chicken. You know, whoa. I was stoned for the very first KGB Sky shows. And I had a KGB card, you know. I don't know if he's responsible for the KGB card, but I had one. And, you know, so I kind of represent the listener he was catering to back then. And it was an honor to have him on the show, the TV show. He's bigger than life. And it was so cool when he said to me that he watched it. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And I'm a fan of radio, and I still am. I was on the radio for a while. I'm in the National Radio Hall of Fame, by the way.
Yeah, there you go!
But honestly, it's because of that guy. But I was listening to Shotgun, I was listening to KGB, and I was listening to B100. And I mentioned the name Paul Palmer to Jim Price on that show, and he started crying. I mean, can you imagine all of you guys I know, you know, from Bollinger to all these guys that are here that are in sales? Can you imagine those days when I was a teenager, KGB and B100? That was it. They had the market. They were laughing all the way to the bank. And there's a photo of them. I think it was Tuned In magazine at that time. But it was a beautiful photo of Jim Price and Paul Palmer. And that's how I think of heaven. You know, everyone in my family is gone. They're in heaven. I can't wait to get there. And I hope when I get to heaven, after I see my mom, look over there and see Jim and Paul together, laughing, and welcome me to heaven. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Oh, you said it all, Tommy. That's fantastic. Who is next that is going to come up here to the golden microphone? And what's your name, baby? Christina. Here she is. Let's hear it for Christina.
Thank you all for being here. I have to say, first of all, it is so impressive how everybody can speak off the cuff. I cannot, so I have my paper. So I'm Christina Rosari. I'm Lou's daughter. I met Jim in 1999, just after he met my mom. Jim's first formal introduction to our family was at our wedding in 2000. So our two new relationships paralleled each other. It was fun that they were in a different stage of life, but yet we got to go through the same stages of our relationship as Brad and I. Initially, as a protective daughter, I subjected Jim to very rigorous standards because I did not want my mom to get hurt. Even though I was tough on him, he would always tell me how much I reminded him of his late wife, Brandy, whom he adored. It's true, I know. It's true. I have witnesses. It took a little time, but Jim completely won me over. I probably prolonged my scrutiny longer than needed. I actually knew right away he was a great man because he always went out of his way to let me know how much he loved and cherished my mom. Also, he treated my children, Owen, Ethan, and Paloma, as his own grandchildren. In their eyes, he is a loving, hilarious, and loud grandfather. No one could make them laugh more than he could, with his funny stories and Midwest lingo. Chin Boogie, still don't know what that one is. Walking Around Money, Excess is Best, and Reefer are fan favorites. And Reefer means refrigerator. When I talk to my mom, she tells me how good he is to her and how he makes her feel like the most special, most loved person in the world. I will always be grateful for the way he loved my mom and how he fully embraced my family as his own. If you have ever been hugged by Jim, you know he gives the best bear hugs, and he holds on extra tight and extra long. Little did I realize it was me that didn't want to let go.
Hi everybody, so I'm Brad, Christina's husband. Lily's my mother-in-law. Jim meant a lot to me as well. When we spent time with Jim, he was a great storyteller and always had a story to tell about his days in the radio. But it was only about a year ago that he told us a story about Elvis. He was the originator of the phrase, Elvis has left the building. And when he told us this, we were blown away. Blown away because it's such an incredible thing, and that it took him 20 years to tell us this story. I said, Jim, you gotta lead off with that. Of your list of stories, that needs to be up at the top. But when I think about Jim, what I'll really remember was his absolute devotion to Lily. And when they were starting their relationship, he was so excited. He wanted to learn everything about Lily. Lily's Mexican, so that meant that he would learn about her culture, and he would try to learn a little bit of Spanish. So what Lily did is she would take these little yellow strips of paper, and she would write a Spanish word on it, and she would tape it in the house next to an object that was named. 23 years later, those little pieces of paper are still there. They're really special. To me, they represent Jim's almost childlike enthusiasm at starting his relationship with you. And they represent his absolute adoration of you and love for you. Yeah, Jim was a great guy. The other thing that a lot of people have touched on already is Jim was an incredible listener. So any of you that have had a conversation with Jim, he was so focused and so interested in what you were saying. And I found that really remarkable. He had a genuine interest in others that I think is so admirable. And his words and his advice really influenced me, and I'm sure he's influenced so many of you as well. And in that way, Jim will always be with us. Much in the same way that his iconic phrase about Elvis will live forever. So I will miss him dearly, but I don't like to say that he's gone. I like to think that he's just left the building.
Again, Devin, you really did it, and you knew what to do in that video. I would love to hear from Roger Hitchcock. Anybody here want to hear from Roger Hitchcock? Roger, where are you? Oh, there you go. Come on up, Roger.
Thank you, Thomas. So Jim Price changed my life in a very meaningful way, and as the video pointed out, there are several different versions of what happened when he hired me. There's two aspects of it that were not covered in the video and we have never talked about in public. One of them had to do with Randy and Jim in a hotel room in Vienna, which I can't talk about to this day. But the other one had to do with the day that I started the show. And as I alluded to, there was all these press people there, and it was a big deal. And they were all looking to this thing to fail. 30 years later, of course, I had the last laugh on that part of it. But the interesting part was the lead editorial of the San Diego Union that day called on Jim Price by name to fire him. Now, in those days, in the internet days, we don't think about the paper. In those days, the only news source was the San Diego Union and the Evening Tribune. They were the most powerful voice around. So when the lead editorial, and I can't remember another time when they named, some person in the business community to fire somebody, so I was kind of nervous. Because this is a business, okay? You've got advertisers, and you've got people that are influenced by public opinion, as Bud Light just found out. A little bit of talk show there. So I went into his office, and I said, Jim, sounds like you're under a little bit of pressure. Are we losing advertisers? And he looked at me and he said, I had a lot of fun hiring you, and I have a lot of fun with all this attention we're getting. It's going to do nothing but good. I may lose some people who are just faint of heart, but I'm going to get other ones that are even better.
That's right.
And we're going to make a lot of money, and we're going to have a lot of fun. That was Jim Price.
Yeah. Right on, Roger, that was great. Okay, who else do we have? Anybody? I'm going to start picking on somebody. I bet we'd love to hear the wisdom of Gabriel Wisdom. Come on up here. Jim was in the money. Jim loved a good finance guy, and this guy is one of the best. Ladies and gentlemen, Gabriel Wisdom.
When I started at KGB, there was another general manager who was fired. And as Bill Deggershire said, programming was in charge, which was great. And then the salespeople took over and really magical things happened. But I remember walking to Jim's new office door to introduce myself, and the door was closed, and he had a poster on the door that was a quote from Ray Kroc. Anybody remember that from Jim? Press on, nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education alone will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. So I read this, and I said, man, there's a new sheriff in town. This guy is going to make some magic. And he did. And Jim, you're gone, but you are never going to be forgotten. Thank you, Jim.
All right. All right now. Am I going to start picking on people? What's going on here? Everybody, who wants to share? Come on, anybody here? Come on. We got a lot of great sales guys in this building. Anybody want to talk about that? Okay.
Can I?
Oh, absolutely, Lynn. Let's hear it for Lynn Wilson, man. Let me tell you something. Oh, by the way, did you hear me say man? You know where I got that from? Jim Price. Yeah, I picked that up when I was 13 years old, and now I say man. I even call my wife man. I call my daughter man. Hey, man. And it was great. Anyway, Lynn, she worked from afar on getting this thing together. And she did so well. How many miles away do you live?
I have no idea.
Long way. Anyway, we were on the phone practically every day. We were emailing back and forth. And I have to give you a round of applause for getting this thing all together. Lynn Wilson, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much for doing all you're doing. Okay, I'm actually reading this for someone else. Bobby Frady sent us a letter to the family, and he said he can't be here today, otherwise he would be here doing it himself. We were also shocked at the passing of Jim, as the world lost a great person. Jim was not only an incredible person, but a legend and an icon in the radio business. KGB FM achieved national recognition under Jim's management, most notably 3 of the top 10 radio promotions of that decade from Billboard magazine, the KGB Chicken, Homegrown Album, and the KGB Sky Show, which is still celebrated each year for the past 50 years. Jim had the unique ability to see into the future and know what needed to be done. I have never met any radio station general manager who had that ability. He brought the best out in people and managed in such a proactive style that you truly enjoyed working for him. For me, it is a deep personal loss and would take a long time to get over, as Jim was such a great close friend who would always be there for you. I will always cherish the wonderful memories and all the great years together. He was my best man at my wedding and will always be my best man. I am so sorry for your loss and the world's loss, and so sad that we will be gone for a celebration of life. My deepest condolences to you and the entire Price family. Sincerely, Bob and Michelle of Brady.
All right, folks, I think it's about time, huh? You know what I liked about my dad, Jim Price? He had no fear. It was, especially riding on my little motorcycle. I was scared to death. But anyway, do we have anybody else that wants to say a couple of words? We're going to wrap it up because it's about time for us to leave. Of course, we're not going to ever forget about Sonny Jim Price. Hey, Jim, would you want to say something up here?
It's all been said, Tom.
Are you kidding me? The great Jim McGinnis, my wife's favorite disc jockey, Jim McGinnis is here.
Thanks.
Yeah. Linda loves you, man.
Thanks, Linda.
Yeah, you guys can go to the prom if you like, you know. Anyway, no, we do really love you, Jim, and I appreciate it. Yeah, a lot has been said here. The videos were great. Again, Devin, you did a super job. Tommy, we wouldn't have these videos without you. And Sully, again, I want to thank you for making this happen. It's been a great. I hope you found this entertaining. And the most important thing, I just hope that you have felt that Jim was right here on this stage, telling these great stories and reminiscing with all of us. Drive carefully, everybody. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, man.
Jim Price is the greatest. Good night, everybody.